things are parts of weather. Think back to, give me a quick show of thumbs about your watching of the video. Thumbs up is I watched the video and I got it. A thumb sideways is I tried to watch the video and it didn't work. And a thumbs down is I haven't seen the video. It's a mix. So someone who did see the video, what are some things you took away from the video? What are some things you learned or saw?
The dog and the owner represent weather and climate.
Yeah, the dog and the owner represented weather and climate. Can you describe what you saw from the weather, from the owner and the dog?
The dog was moving back then, but it's maybe that line for.
Yeah.
He was moving, and the owner was going straight, and he was looking at the owner. The dog is depending on where the owner moves in order to, for his next move.
So you guys have seen that, right? When somebody's walking a dog, the dog has a leash, right? So the dog can go anywhere kind of in this radius around where the owner's walking. But sometimes, so the dog kind of takes a circuitous route, but the owner always stays through the middle of that. And who remembers how they connected this to weather and climate? Which one was weather? The dog or the owner?
The dog.
The dog, right. This one is like weather. And this one's like what? If you haven't seen the video yet, it's 1 minute and it's posted on Schoology, and it explains this very simply and very well. And the idea is if the dog is dependent on the owner, how could we flip that to make it use the words weather and climate? Yeah, weather is dependent on climate. These are things that if you don't already have them in your notebook from your own notes on climate, on the video, that you should have things like this written in your notebook. If you don't already have them there, please make sure that they're there. When we look at one other word that they use to describe climate in the video is a word that you would use to describe this line that I've heard you use both in math and science classes in the past. It starts with a T.
Is it?
It is trend, yeah. So we can have a trend in temperature or in rainfall, but this one happens to be the trend in terms of the climate. So climate is an overall trend. So climate is a trend, which means that we're looking at it over the long term. Now this should definitely be in units. The most important takeaway message here is that when we talk about climate, we're talking about long term. We're talking about the average or the trend, what usually happens in a place. When we're talking about weather, if climate is long term, what do you anticipate weather is going to be?
Short term.
Short term, yeah. And to define those a little bit better, those are the key ideas. To define that a little bit better, when we talk about long term, we're talking about trends that happen over 5 or more years. When we talk about short term, we're talking about less than 5 years of data. So we could have one data point for weather, which is outside today, we have 1 day of data. It is partially cloudy, it's, 75 degrees, and there's low wind. That would be today's weather. Because weather is dependent on climate, we expect that in September, we're going to see days that are partially cloudy, 75 degrees, and it's pretty still. That's the normal average weather. That's the normal average weather that happens here, which means it's the climate. This time of year, This is what we expect because almost every year, this time of year looks like this. The tricky thing is that it looks the same. These ideas of temperature, snow, rain, sun, clouds, humidity, those things describe both weather and climate. So we use the same descriptors. The only thing that's different is that weather is in the short term and climate is when we look at that data over a long period of time. So for example, the climate here in DC is very different than other places I've lived. I used to live in Vermont, I used to live in Minnesota, I've lived a lot of different places. And in Vermont and Minnesota, weather doesn't look like this time of year. It's already colder there than it is here because it's further north. So the climate changes depending on where you are. But in DC, we have a climate that we've come to know and expect. What's something you think I had to change when I moved from Minnesota to here, or when I moved to Minnesota for the first time?
Clothing.
My clothing, absolutely. And that's a great way to think about what climate means. So when I moved to Minnesota, I had to buy things like another coat to wear. I had to buy more scarves. I had to buy thicker gloves because I still ride my bike even when it's really cold. So I had to buy what are called long underwear. Do you guys know about this? It's like it's like thermal pants. Yeah, it's like a second pair of pants that you wear under your regular pants because it gets too cold otherwise. I actually got frostbite on my butt because I was trying to ride my bicycle when it was negative 30 degrees outside, which was really stupid. But I thought my clothing would protect me, but it couldn't protect me against the weather that day. It felt like Alaska. It was like,
So what you do?
it was stupid cold. What?
Like how did it defrost? Yeah.
How did it defrost? I went inside and I was like, wow, that was really stupid. And I stood, because you can't heat it up too fast because it hurts. Yeah, it burns. So I just had to like wait it out inside my warm house. But still, like when I get too cold, my butt still hurts because I damaged my skin, which sucks. But anyway, the climate there is very different. So I had to buy different clothes. I had to buy a different wardrobe. So if I think about all of the clothes in my closet, I had to change those because the climate there was different. So that's my favorite example of climate, is all of the clothes in your closet. Your closet is going to look different if you live in Minnesota than if you live in Hawaii. Right? Like if you live in Hawaii, you probably have 15 pairs of flip-flops and a bunch of shorts. And maybe some tank tops. If you live in Minnesota, if that's all you had in your closet, you would freeze. Because the climate is different. We know that we can expect, because of the long-term patterns, we can expect different weather. We can expect different things. So I know that, what are some things that you need to have in your closet because you live in DC? What are some things you need to have in your closet if you live in DC because of the weather? A jacket, absolutely. Sweats are a good idea. Shorts, because it's going to get hot in the summer. Boots, because it's going to rain. Sneakers. An umbrella, absolutely, because it's going to rain. So those are all things that you know because you've been living in DC for more than 5 years. So you know that those are things you're going to need because of the weather patterns you expect. Now, when I wake up in the morning, do I always put on rain boots? No, but I have them in my closet. When I think about weather, I'm thinking about the clothes I wear every day. Because if it's sunny outside, I need my sunglasses. But I don't necessarily need my rain boots. But I have them in my closet because I know that sometimes it will rain here. Questions about those analogies?
No.
Okay. So, your challenge now is I have a worksheet for you called Climate versus Weather. I'm going to volunteer to pass these on. So your challenge here is that I have many examples of things that are weather and things that are climate. But what's the key difference between weather and climate? Long-term and short-term. Good, thank you. So I'm going to read these examples. I've already done the first one for you, but I want you to justify it for me. So in the first scenario, hurricanes generally strike the east coast of the U.S. between September and November. I said that was climate. Why?
Because it don't happen all the time. Oh, no, never mind, I take that back.
Because climate is a trend. Good. So what word here clues you off that this is going to be a trend?
Huh?
What word in this statement clues you off that this is going to be a trend?
Generally.
Generally, absolutely. So when we say generally, I'm going to assume that it's 5 or more years of data. Not always a safe assumption, but for this exercise, you can make that assumption. It says generally, we're thinking about, that's what usually happens. We're collecting data over a long period of time. How about this one? Can I get a volunteer to read this one? Thanks, Danae.
In 2012, we had 28 days that reached 97 degrees Fahrenheit.
Thank you. So I hear people saying weather. Why? Because it's less than 5 years. How many years is this?
28 days.
28 days from 1 year, right? In 2012. So because there's only 1 year of data, this is going to be weather. What I'd like you to do now is I'd like you to continue through and mark the evidence in the question like I have here, and then write whether it's weather or climate here. Right now we're going to hold off on this column. We're going to do this in a minute, but first you need to have this column completed and correct first before you can do this one.
No, why not?
You can just scribble it out because it's just practice. There's also room in the margin here if you've written something you don't like. So go ahead and work. Thank you.